Today I was listening to a video clip from YouTube about AI, artificial intelligence, whether it'll create utopia, age of abundance versus dystopia, where people are no longer needed, since AI and robots can do everything. So anyway, let's listen to this video clip.
You have made a series of predictions and they correspond to a variety of different dates. I have those dates in front of me here. What is your prediction for the year 2027?
We're probably looking at AGI as predicted by prediction markets and tops of the labs.
So we'd have artificial general intelligence by 2027. And how would that make the world different to how it is now?
So if you have this concept of a drop-in employee, you have free labor, physical and cognitive, trillions of dollars of it. It makes no sense to hire humans for most jobs. If I can just get, a $20 subscription or a free model to do what an employee does, first, anything on a computer will be automated. And next, I think humanoid robots are maybe 5 years behind. So in 5 years, all the physical labor can also be automated. So we're looking at a world where we have levels of unemployment we never seen before. I'm not talking about 10% unemployment, which is scary, but 99%. All you have left is jobs where, for whatever reason, you prefer another human would do it for you. But anything else can be fully automated. It doesn't mean it will be automated in practice. A lot of times, technology exists, but it's not deployed. Video phones were invented in the 70s. Nobody had them until iPhones came around. So we may have a lot more time with jobs and with world which looks like this. Mm-hmm. But capability to replace most humans and most occupations will come very quickly.
Here's one more video. And this is Mo Gadot. I think she used to work for Google as a pretty high-level executive working on AI.
And humanity is taking your attention away from what matters. If I told you that an alien intelligence is in a spaceship that's heading to planet Earth to change everything, would you ask me and say, when are they arriving? And if I told you it was 2035, you'd go like, okay, let's go back to tennis? Would you? This is the situation we're in. I'm telling you, there is an alien intelligence already on planet Earth. Does it make any difference when it will arrive? The reason we are so confused about AI is because of science fiction movies. It's because whenever we think about AI, whenever the news media reports about AI, they talk to us about that existential problem where something will come from the future to kill all of us. While I tell you that this is a possibility, there are more existential problems that are upon us already. They're not going to happen next year. They've already happened. You're just not discussing them. That deserve your attention much earlier. And that the dilution of the information that's given to us by the media by focusing on the big headline, the clickbait of we're all going to die, AI is going to end humanity, is taking your attention away from what matters. If I told
So I don't know if you guys have ever any thoughts on whether AI will be good for humans or bad for humans. Again, a few videos back, I think we talked about how I think aliens are not biological. It's probably more likely a artificial consciousness, because if you look at human, right, we go on flight, let's say 1,000 miles an hour in a fighter jet, and all of a sudden it turns 90 degrees. Most humans cannot survive that. And the other thing I mentioned is that in the extreme environment of Earth, you can find life, but they're not intelligent life. They're not humans, right? They're not people who could create spaceship and go to another planet. And compared to those life on Earth that are in an extreme environment, we're very brittle, right? We just look at the wild animal that's out there. They're surviving every night that things can eat them. They're in the cold, freezing cold, and they're surviving out there. So, but they're not, again, they're not human. They're not, able to create spaceship and go to another planet. Now, so humans in general, we're very fragile. What we have going for us is our brain, and that we're on the verge of creating a species AI computer algorithm that's smarter than us. So if you look at the entire universe, the environment out there is much, much harsher than what we are used to. And so I do think alien will be artificial consciousness, and that's kind of what we're trying to create. And if you look at everything's planned out 50, 60 years ahead, um, we're getting to the point where Elon Musk is thinking about, hey, going to Mars. He's thinking about AI, robots building Mars colonies. And these technologies don't evolve overnight. I mean, they happen over the last, 50, 60 years, maybe even longer from when they started having computers, right? So now let's get back to whether AI will be good for human or bad for human. I mean, there are people who are in AI development, and they think we're just like a transition. The purpose of human is to give rise to conscious machines. Just like the dinosaur were transition, or the ape were transition to give rise to humans. And so that's kind of a scary thought. People working on AI, some of them think that our purpose is to give rise to artificial intelligence that are millions of times smarter than us, because they have to, somehow go to space and replicate our consciousness throughout our part of the universe. And like I told you, does that really matter? Because there are probably living species out there that are millions of years ahead of us. And as I suggested, that they're probably not interested in traveling millions of light years away to do what to us, because if there's that much advanced, they could create everything they need in their area. Anyway, now there's the other group of people working on AI. Think, hey, AI can automate everything. Robot, everything's automated, from cars that we see, cars, to planes, to surgeons. There's robotic surgeon companies. There's robotic cooking fast food companies. I think Flippy is one of them. And they believe, hey, if you could create everything, there's abundance that you could. The question is, how will that abundance be distributed? In the current world, there is already abundance. Most of us are not farmers. They have, in the last industrial revolution, they created machines that could do a lot of the farming work. And a lot of the farming machines are run by AI as well. They're independent or semi-independent. And they're creating all these food, and, we're throwing away food at home. We're throwing away food at the supermarket. We're throwing away food at the restaurants. And yet there are people starving. Because in this world, money decides who gets the abundance and the resources. So in that age of abundance, where robots creating everything, we already see that unless they change the money system, chances are people who have the money will share that abundance. People without money won't. And you see that already, right? The concern that, hey, robot AI will take our jobs. And if you look at all the industries, all the jobs that can be replaced, really just think it through. If cars can drive themselves, and we're just in the beginning of this AI revolution and robot revolution, if car can drive them by themselves, a lot of things can be done, automated. Here's a list: agriculture, labor, in the USA, 2.6 million workers worldwide, 850 million workers worldwide. Automation risk is high. Okay, retail sales and cashiers, 7.5 million workers in the US, 700 million workers worldwide. Automation risk is 9.5, almost 10, almost the highest risk. Okay, manufacturing assembly, 13 million workers US, 500 million worldwide. Automation risk 8.5, pretty high. Construction trade, 8 million US, 300 million worldwide. Truck, taxi, delivery, and bus drivers, US 5.5 million, worldwide 250 million. Automation risk 9 out of 10, very high. Restaurant fast food worker, 13 million US, 220 million worldwide, 8.5 out of 10 automation risk. Domestic and cleaning service, 4 million in the US, 170 million worldwide. Teachers, 4 million US, 100 million worldwide. Healthcare support, 6 million US, 95 million worldwide. Warehouse worker, I'm jumping around. Office clerk, 8 million. Warehouse worker, 2 million. Worldwide office clerk, 180 million. Or warehouse worker, 60 million. So if robots and AI can do everything, how do humans get the money to live? That's the question. Now, who gets to decide? I'm just thinking through my head about how to present what I think. Well, the obvious way is just to give people money, right? That's one way. And there's talk of universal basic income. Whether you taxing robots, taxing these AI companies, and give it to people. And the universal basic income right now they're talking about is about $1,000 a month, which in the USA is not a whole lot. I mean, $1,000 a month in the US, unless you're living with family, most people would be homeless. And what would $1,000 a month do for them? Just food, probably food, and maybe some basic healthcare insurance. They probably won't have a car. I mean, they probably need a car, but they won't have a car. So it's just not a lot. Now that's a pilot. What would be a meaningful universal basic income in the USA? Probably $10,000. And if you want people to be really free, probably $50,000, $100,000 a month. Now, where would that money come from? Well, they say we're just gonna tax the AI company that, they can start firing workers. And they're doing that already, right? They're firing a lot of workers and their profit is going way up because they can automate everything. And I can remember this is just the beginning. We're at the cell phone. I don't know if you remember from 30 years ago, those massive cell phone that nobody has. So in similar stages of AI relative to cell phone, that's where we're at. And so anyway, tax these companies, right? Now let's go back and talk about what is money? Where does money come from? Well, for most of us, including the billionaires, we have to work for our money, whether it's through our own hands, our employees, or our company, right? Even the billionaires have to work for their own money. But money in itself is created out of thin air. It's created when someone wants to take a loan, which is basically swearing. If the government takes, and the government, or the U.S. government is in debt, trillion dollars to an unknown entity. And the promise is, hey, the U.S. government is good for it because first they have the guns, second they have the taxpayer. They just they just get it from the people. Now, how about companies? Well, same thing. They're promising future revenue, right? Future lifetime. And if you're just one individual, you take a mortgage, you're pleading your future freedom, slavery, that you'll pay that loan back. And so that's when digits are all of a sudden created into a computer and with a promise that you will pay back with your sweat and tear. And when they create that $1 million for the house, they don't create the interest, but they'll charge you interest. And so the way money is created, and when they create trillions of debt, they put digits there, and then that goes into your pocket economy. But then you promise with your future life or your taxpayer to pay it back. And yet they never created the interest. So bankruptcy, somebody will go get bankrupt. The U.S. government is already bankrupt. The reason we could keep going is because we have the guns and the people who allow digit in your computer allows the U.S. government to keep borrowing. And but at some point, whether it's the government, private companies, or people, somewhere will go bankrupt. So let's go back to, hey, we all know they could create this abundance, but how do they distribute it? Well, money just digit in the computer. And so they could literally just put $1 million in everyone's bank account and they wouldn't have to tax you. Okay, but they tell you they have to tax you because they want you to know, hey, this is the reason why we can only give you $100, $500, $1,000. But anyway, and the other aspect of money is used as form of control. If you go back 100,000, 300,000 years ago when human first, came along, we had different strengths, right? Some people were smart, but they're skinnier. Some people were strong and powerful, and they could go hunt. And so eventually, the weaker, if you want to survive, you have to figure out how to have the other stronger people go hunt, risk their life, and give you food. And among these group of, very smart people, they eventually become rulers. And through the tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of years, they rule the world. And they rule the world in a very complicated way, anywhere from that they control the very top, issue credit, and they control government, military, and even information. And money is not the only thing, but it is the basic. If you have money as a medium of exchange, and you have the ability to create digits, you really can control everything that's in the society. And so, in that way, money will probably never go away. And so, it would really have to be a decision of how much money they'll give you, and that'll decide what type of life we will live in that age of abundance. If they don't give us universal basic income, chances are most of us will starve, and there'll be a revolution. If they decide to give 50 grand, 10 grand, 50 grand a month, well, to me that's a utopia world that's coming. Now, I don't know what you think. What do you think? Because at the end of the day, I don't have the power. Anybody who has to make money, including the billionaires, they don't have the power. Now, in a monetary society, they might have more freedom to do what they want, but they don't have the power as in to give everybody money, as to give everybody $1 million. Now, what would that world look like? I think if there's age of balance coming and you don't have to worry about money, I think most people, because we're just so used to running a treadmill, that we will probably want to take a break, whatever that means. Okay. But many of us will eventually probably still want to do things, and you would actually be the most creative, most productive, because you would only be working because you truly enjoy working and making a difference. So I think it's just a far better world. There wouldn't be, imagine there's, no one's worried about money. A lot of the problems and competition and the theft and the lying in the world wouldn't be there. And, people growing up in poverty in the ghettos and all the problems they end up, growing up and being in violent environment. If nobody has to worry about having food or shelter or their kids, it would just be a lot more pleasant world. I do want to mention another person is Jack Frisco. He died when he was almost 100, and he was an inventor who didn't believe in patenting. He shared whatever he invented, and his belief was a resource-based economy, in that AI and automation robots are doing everything, and resources are distributed based on need and not how much money you have. And people, automated, you would just get delivery of food, robots will do that, and you'll even have robotic chef. And people will be left to do whatever they want to do. And again, a lot of us will probably just want to sit around and do nothing for a couple of years, but to me, that's just a much more pleasant world, where people are not forced to do what they don't like for a living. And there's no advertising, marketing, competition, banking, insurance, lawyers, real estate agent. It would just be technically producing, or you're free, right? In this world, everyone sees AI as a threat because if they take our job, and we starve. But in the world, the resource-based economy that Jack Fresco suggests, if AI can replace you, it means you're free to do whatever you want. Imagine that. Now, the problem is, I think it took hundreds of thousands of years for people to become rulers. So I think it's hard to imagine that they're willing to give up their power and control. And I don't think it's because they're evil. I think it's just in that past history of world of scarcity. Okay, being ruthless and being cunning, being smart, being controlling was survival. And I do believe humans are animalistic, that we want to survive, but so we evolved to a world where there's a hierarchy and people enjoy being in power and being controlled. But the problem is we're getting to the age where that doesn't have to be true. There's endless balance, and I still believe deep inside humans that if our basic needs are met, we want to see other people thrive, and we don't want to see other people suffering and starving and homeless. And again, the pessimistic view is that you're not the controller. And so it's hard for you to imagine what they think. But all I could hope for is in what I see. And I think Mo Gadol says he sees Utopia, but that's 15, 20 years down the road. In the transition, we have to kind of just see what they want. Again, the reason I say they, because I know automation, robotic abundance, massive production, and just free the human beings and let them eat and give them money, even get rid of money, right? Or give them unlimited money, or to me, is get rid of money, but that's not going to happen, right? Because that's the way you control the society. But to me, that's an obvious choice. I think to most of us, that's an obvious choice. But again, it's not my choice to make. Now, I don't know what you think, about all the things I'm saying, in that if there's endless abundance automation and humans are free to do whatever they want to do, and now the problem is, will we be free? How will that balance be shared or distributed? Or are we still going to be fighting? And many of us have no job, so we starve, and revolution and fighting. Again, a lot of times I think what they tell you, whether it's pre-programmed from old movies, Terminator, robot killing everybody, to Georgia Guidestone. There's a Guidestone in Georgia that says population will be reduced to 500 million from 7-8 billion people on Earth. A lot of time I'm hoping that they tell you what's worse, and the version they present you, although it's not complete freedom, complete utopia, hey, it's far better than robot killing everybody. It's far better than 500 million people. So again, all that matters is what I see, right? I see massive assets inflation in the last 20 years, right? People who have assets, they don't have to work anymore, and they're out of the workforce. They're enjoying life. But the problem is, massive amount of people still don't have assets. And the very bottom, you get unemployment. Again, I don't know what that life is. And then there's the middle, who are middle 90% who are still needing to work. And so my hope is I just want to see what's coming. Okay, other than asset inflation or unemployment check, I believe universal basic income is inevitable. But I want to see. Right now they're talking $1,000 here and there, but I want to see it done. And I want to see the $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 check in the mail. And if it gets to $10,000, $20,000, then I realize, well, they want people to be free. And to me, that's utopia. To me, I think that's the most realistic utopia. And again, they could say they want to tax AI, this and that. They could print money out of thin air. It's just when they do that, people are left wondering, hey, why are the rest of us still working? Anyway, what's your thought? And feel free to go ahead and watch all these thinkers, AI, people involved in AI. I don't know if it'll lead you to more happiness, because a lot of times, even when you know the solution, if you don't have the power to act on it, I think it creates actually more sadness. And but the other way is to understand that, hey, we are all just stardust. When we die, again, like I told you before in other videos, you feed me to a lion, I become a lion. Just like when we eat chicken, eat pig, eat steak, eat vegetable, they become us. So we're all made of the same molecule. And so, it's in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter, right? So what matters is in the lifetime that you're here, whether it's 30 years, 50 years, 100 years, that you make it meaningful for you. And maybe these series of videos, at the end of the day, for those who could actually make changes to the world for the better, great, go ahead and do it, right? But for other people, maybe like me, you're in your 50s and your 60s, maybe it's just a matter of understanding, hey, we're all just stardust, and kind of make decisions that gets you to the place where you're happy. And again, I don't know what happiness means to you. Anyway, comment below. How does this video, make you think? And anyway, I'm very grateful for you listening, and subscribe if you want to support the channel. Thank you.